Hey y'all, like you said, my name is Beverly Fite. I'm so excited to get the chance to share a little bit of my family's special story with all of you. To start off, I want to talk about one of my favorite books. It's by this author named Bob Goff, and it's called Love Does. And it's basically this really awesome collection of stories about how love is an action, not just something that we say. So I'm going to be pulling from a few quotes that have really stuck with me from that book from the past couple years. This first one I feel like gives some good perspective into what it was like to grow up in the Fite household. The kind of love that God created and demonstrated is a costly one because it involves sacrifice and presence. It's a love that operates more like a sign language than being spoken outright. I think there's something so beautiful about the kind of love that he's referring to here. It's the kind where you almost don't even notice it until you're reflecting years later. That's exactly the type of love that my big brother has shown me all my life. Growing up, my only impression of organ transplants, donations, anything was from watching Meredith Grey talk to Eunice on Grey's Anatomy. Not only that, but Meredith's patients were always down for the count. They were not okay, bedridden, something. The camera panned to them and you knew they needed this now. So I kind of had this idea that the only people that got transplants were the ones that were truly at death's door. So you can imagine my surprise then when in 2020 my mom called me to tell me that Dan, my brother, was going to get a living donor liver transplant. My first thought was to tell her, Mom, you've got some bad intel because Dan is way too healthy to need one of those. My second thought was, where are y'all going to find this liver? Looking back though, it's not at all surprising that I was so clueless for how badly that he needed this because Dan has been protecting me all my life. I don't know about y'all, but when we were younger, I took my job as annoying younger sister very seriously. Dan was not just my big brother. Dan was the target of any and all me and my younger siblings' wildest schemes, annoying stories, and endless teasing. As horrible as it is to admit to you now, a lot of things I teased him about were things he had no control over. I remember for some reason I was absolutely ruthless to him about how slow of a reader he was. I mean, Dan, I would tell him, let's read the same chapter book. I'm younger than you. I bet I can read it in a day and you'll take 2 weeks to read it. What's up with that? I guess I'm better than you. And in reality, Dan was just protecting me from the scary truth of his disease that he was facing every day. He was protecting me from the fact that he was so fatigued that he couldn't even sit down to read a chapter of a book without falling asleep. All in all, he was protecting me just from the scary truth of just how much he was having to fight every single day. Back to 2020 though, when I found out that living donation for livers was even a thing, my third thought became, how do I sign up? Okay, time for another quote. I used to think that you had to be special for God to use you, but now I know you simply just have to say yes. I don't know about y'all, but when I dreamed about what my college experience would be like, I definitely didn't picture a massive surgery to be happening right in the middle of it. But if there's one thing us Fites are good at, it's improvising. And if there's one thing that the Auburn College of Nursing and Vanderbilt as a whole is great at, it's being encouraging. I had just started my second semester of nursing school when I got the call from Nurse Ashley that I was getting called up for a donor eval. I'm unsure of what other schools are like, but y'all should know that at Auburn, second semester is kind of like the ultimate weed out semester. It's the one where you walk into a lecture and you don't just think you missed last week's class, you think you somehow missed an entire semester. Safe to say that I was not feeling totally confident in my ability to be both the perfect student and the perfect donor and this perfect daughter that I felt like I had to be. In reality, those fears were quickly disproven by my professors and then all of my doctors and nurses here. I've never felt so loved and cared for as I did when the nursing school gifted me with a massive basket full of goodies and a handwritten note signed by all my professors. One of them, Dr. Ann Lambert, even took the time to hand wrap individual gifts for me to open each day of the week leading up to the surgery. And then coming here for my evaluation in February, I've never felt like more of a rock star than when I first sat down and talked with Dr. Montenovo. For those of you who haven't met him, let me just tell you, this guy is the man. Here I am, flustered and feeling unsure of myself, terrified of what this surgery might bring in my life. And in walks Montanova with a huge smile. He's immediately cracking jokes. I was expecting an old man, stern face, serious talk, all the risk, all the things, and in reality, it was just the most incredible relief to sit down and talk with someone so fun. Without even realizing it, he instantly soothed any anxieties I had about the procedure just by talking about running. He was doing my physical eval, and he asked me if I was a runner, and it turns out he's a runner. We're both runners. He says, we should run a half marathon together after all this is said and done. And I thought to myself, okay, cool. If he thinks I can run a half marathon after this, I'm gonna be okay. It's not gonna be that bad. So, haven't gotten the chance to do one with him yet, but I did just run one in February, so he better watch out because I'm coming for him at the next one. Earlier, I talked a lot about how Dan protected me, and then I got this chance to protect him. But perhaps the biggest protectors of this story are all the members of my team. My doctors, nurses, everyone around me, they did the most incredible job at making me feel like my wishes were the utmost priority. There was never a step in the process where I didn't feel completely safe and totally advocated for. Not only that, but because of how great everyone is here at giving pep talks, I wasn't even slightly nervous going into surgery. Just like he made me feel at the eval, Dr. Montanova came in that morning, and I just remember thinking to myself, dang, we're about to do something pretty cool. It wasn't just the surgeons doing this, like they really made me feel like I was part of this team, I was on the roster, and it was just the most incredible feeling. Not only that, but they were totally okay with my completely strange and odd request. First, I wanted a picture of this liver of mine. I told Joel I was a nursing student, so me and all my friends in the months leading up to it, we wanted to know, what does this thing even look like? Second of all, if I was gonna get a scar on my tummy, then by golly, I wanted it to be straight down, right in the middle, to give me some built-in abs. And sure enough, when I woke up, I had liver pictures galore, whatever I wanted, all the angles. I had it in me, out of me, everything. And I had a nice, pretty straight line scar. Felt like I had a built-in six-pack right in the hospital. Not only that, but less than 2 weeks out of the surgery, they gifted me one of the most incredible experiences I'll ever have, seeing my liver work in Dan's body. In those first couple weeks, almost immediately, just like they said, his eyes were wider, his skin was no longer jaundiced, his energy levels were through the roof. I was the one falling asleep reading now. He was cranking out books, watching movies. I mean, we were both learning to walk again with our walkers, and he was cranking out the laps around the house. I was falling asleep after one. You name it, he was doing it. This was a side of my brother I haven't seen since we were little kids. It was amazing. And I've never felt so much joy than knowing that I got to play a role in that. When I think about our hospital experience, I think about how since in high school, my goal has always been to nursing degree from Auburn, hopefully one day work at Vandy, just because I've always heard this is a great place. And I hope that one day I could visit and look around and see if this place really kind of held up to this standard that I had kind of come up with in my head. And it's safe to say I got a whole lot more than just a tour last year. This experience, this team, everything about this has made me hold this place in such a high regard than I ever did before, and I am so thankful. We're just under a year out of our surgery, and being able to look out and see Dan right here, totally healthy, is the coolest thing ever. Working with you all to give my big brother a new chance at life is the most rewarding thing I've ever done, and I would absolutely do it all over again. And I would highly consider anyone who has the chance to do something like this to go for it. And I would like to applaud anyone else who has been able to do something like this. So, simply put, love does. Thank you.